Hello, Colin again here with Corey. We are going to be talking about how we fumbled our way into becoming art directors for Luminous. Um, it we always knew that we wanted to do human art for Luminous. Like it was never an option to not do that. But not a soul on our team had any background in art. But me and Corey were the two most creative people. So, and also maybe the people who had the most drive to actually. Drive makes it sound like the other people didn't want to do it, but like we,
They were all very interested in us having art, but they had
yes,
enough on their plate already uh, without taking this on as well. I think was the charitable way of saying that.
right. So just to, I guess to start, we're just going to give a little bit of background of like how we became the art directors, and then figured out how to like learn how to do it. Um, we got a lot of help. We became much better. I'd say where we are right now, I would say we are competent art directors.
We have
Um,
commissioned more art than a lot of games at this point.
yes, and
We
and
have
we have
over
on
100 pieces of unique art.
yeah, and we have it on good authority from artists that we have pretty good art briefs. So, yay. Um, hey man, it is
It's a
it's
win.
it's
I'll
been a
take it.
journey. Yeah, for sure. Um, not without its struggles though, as we'll come to see. Um, but like everything else in this luminous journey, it was a lot of learning. It was a lot of figuring things out, and being very lucky that we've been worked with people who are very patient and also understanding and like eager to help. It's been amazing. Um, so I guess we should start with like Gen Con 2022. Was that, or 2023?
2023.
2023, yeah. We had a prototype of at the time, it was a prototype of Luminous. It was with a different name at the time. It was mostly just a cube. The system was the same, but everything else was basically different. Um, but the core of the game was more or less the same, and
It was a draft product,
it was a cube
which
draft
is
product.
fun. It was made to be drafted, and it had all placeholder art. And the only, I think, real similarity was that it had orbs.
The
Uh,
system,
the
the
re-
system was the
the
same.
resource system was the same.
Even the priority system, like the way the game
That's true.
plays,
The
the way the
bones
game
were there.
plays was the same. We've just changed kind of the delivery model a little bit. That's a story. That is a whole
That
other
is its
hour.
whole own thing.
That
Yeah.
is that is that. Well, Colin will be on. We'll talk about that. The other Colin. Yeah, you're gonna stop seeing my mug here in the next couple weeks for a little bit, but um, as we get some of the other dev team on. But yeah, so 2023 Gen Con, we were brand new. We were all meeting each other for the first time. That's where we met Nathan. We all got together and we were like, wow, we showed the game off to people, and like people played it and they were like, wow, this is really cool actually. And like we kind of got our ego inflated a little bit, which was like a good thing for us at the time, where people were like, wow, this is really cool and good. And we were like, I guess it is really cool and good. Um, and then after that, we were like, all right, let's do it. We need 340 pieces of art for this cube. How do we do that?
Yeah, that's right. I forgot how
Um,
much we needed at the beginning. It
yeah,
was an absolutely ambitious project.
yeah. So we very quickly were like, well, maybe we can't do that. So we pivoted to the factions and kind of what Luminous is now, which is the like faction buckets, much less art, very focused. Um, but in any case, we needed art, and none of us knew anything about art other than it was cool and we liked it on Magic cards and like other games. So I was the only one who had ever commissioned art. I had gotten art done. I had gotten art done for a Secret Santa D&D
I
campaign.
have it. I have it.
Yeah.
It's in my bedroom.
I've gotten it. Yeah, I did it twice, 2 years in a row, same artist, and I was like, "Well, how did I find that person?" So I thought back and I was like, "Well, I found them on Twitter by searching like fan like hashtag fan art, hashtag commissions or something like that. And I was like, okay, let's do that. So I went on Twitter and Instagram and I searched hashtags and I found like a list of like 300 artists. And I went through their like if they were like accepting commissions, how much they charged, like all of this stuff. And we had the spreadsheet with like 300 artists. And then me and Corey went through it and we were like, well, they charge way too much. We can't afford that, which is great for them. Um, and okay, well, this is closer to what we can afford. All right, let's reach out. So we narrowed that like 300. I bet I still have that list. It's like 300 people,
It
300
was a lot.
artists.
We
Yeah.
spent hours going through it.
And we narrowed that down to maybe like 25. And then I ended up reaching out to maybe 10 of those people. And I was like, hey, this is like a commercial project. We're brand new. Here's the plan. Like what do I
Yeah.
like? The email was just like, "Is this good? Like, can you help us?"
Does this seem like something you might be interested in?
Yeah, yeah, and it was very much like, and all of them, to their credit, they were like, "Yeah, super interested." And then I would tell them like, "Okay, here's more about the project, etc." And so we kind of like went from there. And I think at that point we went with there was two artists, Jolene and Andrea, who Andrea did our orbs, all of our basic orbs for our wanderers.
Yes.
And Jolene did all of the concept art. She concepted the kinda, which are going to be
Yeah,
one of the
all of her
factions that
art hasn't even been used yet, even though it was some of
only
the first
Ancient
art that we
Servant.
got.
Ancient
Yeah,
Servant is the
Ancient
only
Servant.
piece of hers that is in the wanderers. And that was even a piece we made for the disciples, but we just used it for the
Yes.
wanderers because it fit for the card. That's a whole other tangent of figuring out like getting art done that you can then fit to other cards that aren't the card that it was. Again, we're going linear here. But yeah, we worked with Andrea and Jolene were the first two, and thank goodness because Andrea asked us so many questions and she was so patient with us. And uh, she did our disciple concept art as well. So we started with like we need concept art, and at that time we were doing the disciples and the kinda. And so we are like, okay, well maybe if we get concept art, it'll make getting all the other art easier. So we went with them and we got the kinda concept art, which is largely Corey's inspiration, Corey's like ideas. We met with Jolene a bunch and talked to her about what we wanted, and then Andrea.
Yeah, that was on that was really because that was one of the first meetings we had, like, as a business, right, where we were kind of paying somebody. Um, it was really intimidating and weird, and to be in kind of the position of, like, "We would like to pay you money to do this thing that we're asking you to do, and,
Yeah,
like, here's an assignment." And also because, like, we hadn't done it really, so it felt very odd to, like, they would have questions for us, and we'd be like, "Oh, that's a great question. We don't know."
yeah, we'll get back to you. We'll figure it out and get back to you. But yeah, so that was so we went through we went through that. And kind of we got to a point where we did all the concept art, which wasn't card art, it was a completely different thing. And it got us to the point where we felt confident that we could start contracting art for like cards, specific cards. Um, and then Corey can maybe go through a little bit of like what that looks like. So like we were like, okay, so what do you need to give an artist if you want them to draw something for you?
Yeah, that was something we had to really figure out. So I I have no talent at visual art at all. My title just down there shows words and pictures, but really I lean more heavily on the words side. And so even when it comes to our pictures, mostly I'm writing out what I want them to draw. And so when we came to like the orbs, which were some of the first things that we had, really the instructions were really like limited. We basically said like we want them to be orbs. I think we gave them a size. I think we told them like they should be like you should be able to fit them in one hand. I think we said between like a grapefruit and a basketball. Like I think that was the level of direction we were giving
Yeah,
was like
I have it here. So
yeah. What did we
Here's
say?
here's the brief we gave to Andrea. Orbs
Okay.
are made of unbreakable glass and house a limitless
Yes.
supply of energy. The energy
Correct.
emitted is colored. At that point, blue, red, green.
Yes, it was blue,
Changed
red,
since
green
then.
initially.
Um, oh, and then I even say still unsure about the colors. The energy coming from the housing one of these magical. Oh, okay, that's a spoiler. And
Oh,
continually consuming it before that regrows. So that's changed also. It's an
yes.
endless source of renewable energy in the palm of your hand. Um, the orb should be holdable between the size of a baseball and a basketball, and may
Sure,
have
yeah. Which
bronze
was
elements.
also, I will stop just on that. We mostly work with European artists, and so initially, all of my references were extremely American, and I switched from using sports balls to fruits because I was like, well, they have fruit, they don't necessarily have baseballs.
We also were very guilty of using like Americanisms in our descriptions as well. Like we've tried to stop doing that as much.
We had to learn to cut all of our idioms out of
Yeah.
the art briefs. But anyway, you were saying
Yeah. So the orb, it may have bronze elements. It is spherical, but may
it's
have oddities in the forms of chips or break. And it can be drawn either on its own upon a pedestal or otherwise showcased upon an unobtrusive background. And then here are the technical specifications, which are very funny now because we give much, much more detailed technical
yeah, we have like
specifications.
frames for them
Uh
actually, but
huh.
initially we were just like they should be kind of like this.
High-res
Um,
JPEG files, access
yeah,
to your layers for foiling, which is still true today,
that
and
is
then
true.
it will need to be highly visible at the size of 1380 by 1080 pixels, which is still true. Um, but like that's what we gave her.
Yeah, it was very limited. To be fair, she was an incredible artist, and we had a lot of faith that she'd be able to do this. But yeah, the orbs. I mean, we'll get to like some what our briefs look like now, but those briefs were very bare bones. She gave us these incredible like options here. You'll recognize in here the actual final versions are all. I think it's like the second one down for the green, um, etc. There's like I see the orange and the purple orbs in there. It's funny to see like the ones we didn't use. Uh, but
And for the record, all of them are amazing. But
yeah, they
then
all look good,
like
and I think we'll still see some of these. I mean, I'll be honest, when we've commissioned additional orbs, I still include this image for our artists who do orb work. Obviously, right now the Wanderers we just have Andrea's pieces, but all the factions have their own orbs, and some of them use designs similar to this. Uh, but so she gave us those, and then she started giving us sketches. So I believe, if I remember right, we told her which ones on the previous image when she gave
yes,
us like 12 of them. We were like, we like these few ones, move forward with those. Um, but she gave us these sketches.
these are compositions at this point, and we didn't instruct. So at this point, we weren't really giving composition instructions. So she came up with these compositions kind of like on her own and sent them over for
Yes.
us. And
If I remember,
when we say composition, we mean like what's happening in the piece of art.
yeah, I do think we gave her some instructions about, because I remember saying I wanted the green one to like be on a table with like some scrolls out. I think that was the limit of what I told her. Because we also told her the purple one would have like stuff floating around it. Uh, but so she gave us a few different versions of what that might look like. A green orb just kind of like
Yeah,
sitting on a
I
desk.
found it. I found it. It
Yeah.
says green orb on a table with sketchbooks showing other line art orb designs like the disciples are
Yeah.
studying it. Purple can be on
Yes.
a pedestal in a wizard's tower kind of display.
Yes.
Orange
Yeah.
can be partially buried in overgrowth in the forest maybe or nestled
Yeah,
against a
exactly.
tree trunk. So she nailed it on all of this.
Yeah.
But
Uh
that's those are not very good
Not very
descriptions.
descriptive based on what we'll see for some of these other briefs. To the question in the chat, did y'all give her instructions about what the orbs would be used for? I don't remember if we told her they were like the resource system. Um,
We
uh,
said what they were in the story, but we didn't tell her what they were used for in the game.
yeah, we did tell her. So okay, so you're saying, i.e., what color each color represents slash augments a user. We did give it some instructions. We didn't give the detailed instructions that exist like in the game, like the flavor text that are like this is what each color essence kind of means. Partially because that didn't exist yet.
Yeah.
What we did have was how I did give her instructions on how each one looked within the orb. So, like the green orb, for instance, has like a very geometric shape to the essence that's within it. Purple, like we see here, is kind of like chaotic and explosive. That we did tell her. That was in the instructions somewhere. I don't remember when we gave that to her, but I remember that was written out, because we asked her specifically. I remember for the geometric one.
There are 190 emails in this chain.
Yeah, it's crazy. We went
So
back and forth with her a lot.
yeah,
But so we told her essentially that each one should look different and what it should look like. But we didn't tell her like purple essence is good for magic and green essence is good for order. That I remember. We might have.
we
We
did. We
might have.
didn't. We didn't.
Yeah, I don't. But yeah, so here we see the orange ones. This is fun. I haven't seen these sketches like in years. Obviously, one is what we ended up going with. Anybody who sees the Wanderers will recognize that. But two and three are really cool.
All
Uh,
of them are. She's great. Andrea is amazing.
yeah, these are all fantastic. I think specifically I liked that it was like against a tree. I think that's why we picked that one. I
Yeah.
just wanted there to be a tree in the image.
So yeah, those were kind of the sketches, and then from there we kind of chose which one we liked, and then went with we took it from there. And then at that point, it is what you see on the card.
Yeah,
I will say a lot of it relied on the artists doing some of the heavy lifting,
the
which
early
at that
ones
time
especially.
we you know like we needed it, but we have since you know worked with I think almost 40 artists now and
Yes,
have worked really closely with a handful of artists. Melissa Spandry
a
being
few.
one of being one of the primary ones, who has helped us like refine kind of our process because she's worked professionally for many years and has been gracious to give us a lot of her time to kind of help us refine the process, and kind of refine our step. This is even before that, so
Yeah.
we're
This was
going,
our like first foray.
almost every piece
Andrea,
of art we made for the Kinda and the Disciples at this time was very elementary as far as our instruction to the artists.
yes, we were giving a lot of leeway. We didn't really know how to ask for what we wanted. Um, and so there was also part of what that meant for the process was there were these long email chains, like you were talking about, where they would have lots of questions for us because there was a lot that was unsaid in our assignment. And so what would happen often is you would send me a message that was like, hey, here's these 5 questions they had. And I would
Yeah,
have to write up answers to these 5 questions. And we'd send that back to them and they would start working. And then they'd come back and say, well, I have some more questions.
yeah, and
That
this is
doesn't happen.
across different time
Yeah.
zones too. So it was like I would
Yeah.
start. Here's how my day worked. I would wake up. I'd have a bunch of emails in my inbox from our artists who are European that were sent at like 3 a.m. our time because that's the morning for them. I would gather all the questions. I'd answer what I could on my own, but if I didn't know the answer, because Corey, most of it lives in his head, I'd send it to Corey. I'd wait for Corey to respond. I'd collect his. I'd respond to the artist. So I'm the point. I'm still largely the point of contact with the artist. So
Yeah.
I just to help give you some like process behind the scenes, I'm largely the point of contact with all of our artists. Outside of Discord. So I do all of the invoicing. I am the first point of contact if we're like onboarding a new artist. I provide them with all of our assets. We can get to a little bit more of that later, like to show you like what that process looks like now. Um, but at that point it was like I get an email. If I can't answer it, I ask Corey. and then
Yeah.
it's daisy chain that way, which is really inefficient and also just takes a while. Gary has a question. Uh, oh, uh, hmm. Any questions around art direction that is brought up? Yeah, we've had a lot of conversation about art direction. I will say this is one kind of like avenue of our team that is largely me and Corey. Like
So we kind of
design,
siloed in a way.
yeah,
So we early on decided people were going to have these kind of spheres. There's so much work to do on the game with just 6 of us that we couldn't all be a part of every conversation. And so Colin and I kind of got the fiefdom of the art, to do kind of inside of what we wanted. And so there haven't been like a lot of debates necessarily about the art. People, the rest of the team is kind of willing to let us take the lead there. I'm trying to think about ones that have been contentious. Um, were there any cards that like the team wasn't as on board with?
I
We
don't
have
think
one piece. I don't think we can even show it yet because it's still under contract. We definitely have one piece that we got recently that uh, was more literal than the rest of the team thought I was being when I pitched it to them. I'm really excited. We'll talk about this more, I think, when the set actually comes out. But they were like, "Oh, you meant what you said when you got this. I didn't think that was going to be quite so literal." That's very vague, I know. Uh,
I think because it's kind of like the fun part about not being on the art team in Luminous, I think, is that we just show them really cool finished pieces of art, and they're like, "Hell yeah, this rules."
yeah,
Um, so I will say now that we've moved, we're skipping ahead a little bit here, but like now that
yeah,
we've moved largely all of our like art communication and process onto our Discord, there's a little bit more of like, they can see more of the process happening in time. They don't
yeah.
have any input into it, but like if they see something that they have a chance to be like, "Hey, what about X, Y, or Z?" And like that happens very rarely. And usually it's not because anything is bad or wrong. It's like just like, "Oh, I noticed this thing," or like, and it's usually a positive. Very rarely do we have a piece of art that is anyone like, art is good.
The
So
art is good.
yeah,
Um, but yeah, I actually think this is getting a little far afield, so we'll say this, and then I think we're gonna dive into like kind of a piece from start to finish. The biggest art debate that we've had, and Colin might be mad that I bring this up even, has been whether or not to use real person likenesses within the game.
true.
So we have right now one card that is based on a real person. Um, that was like an homage to a family member of somebody on the team. Um, and I think it turned out really great. But then that brought up further conversations about like how many real people do we want to put in the game? And the team has okay. I guess technically we have two. Okay, that's not the one I was thinking of. This one's me. Unintentionally, it's me. I posed for the uh, reference image for Jedos, and the artist Melissa, the wonderful Melissa, um, was like, I actually went ahead and just used you as the person, which is fair. But I was actually talking about a different card. But
Yeah.
anyway, the point of all that is we've had a lot of debates about how many real people we want to put in the game, and also who wants to be a real person. Colin Bevis, our founder, has adamantly said he never wants his likeness to be in the game, whereas some other folks have asked if they can have a card. Um,
It
but
just
that's probably
has to
been
be
the.
it has to be tasteful
It has to be tasteful.
yeah.
That's been the
But
biggest art debate, actually. I think
I think so, yeah, and also just like if we can use any other people's likeness, I just think it's uncanny. But again,
Colin
that
hates it.
I don't hate it. It's fine when used correctly, as
Um,
reference and not like as like this is someone's photo in there. And
yeah,
then last thing Gary asked is, oh, has any piece of art turned out that has changed the way we like think about the design of a card?
there's definitely pieces that have come out differently than I expected them to, and
I
it's
don't think
been a
it's
nice
changed the design.
surprise. I don't think it's changed the design of the card. Um, it's definitely changed the way I think about what that card is, but they're largely self-contained. I'm struggling to think of an example. Maybe we'll come across one as we're about to go through some art.
Oh, well, Raphael
And
asked a really
actually,
good question actually here.
which is a
Uh,
great segue, actually.
yeah. So the answer to that question right now is yes. The answer to that question at this stage in our process is
Yeah.
absolutely not.
So
Uh,
this was the next evolution of our art system, which was we had kind of done this back and forth thing with Andrea and with Jolene that was like really not working. We were putting a lot of time into kind of clarifying kind of what we had in mind. And so I was like, let me just write up like a paragraph. Let me just write up a little bit more about what we want before we sent like a couple of sentences and a few reference images. With this, so this is Scar City General. This is one of the pieces in the Wanderers. And at the time that I wrote this, I was like, this is so clear. This is elaborate. This is a great example of an art brief. Spoilers for where we're going to get in a few minutes, but like, this is not a great art brief. It's fine. It goes over
No
a little bit of
references,
like
by the
what we
way.
want. No reference images at all.
We might
It
have
was
given a
literally
reference
just this.
image of, like, the outfit we wanted. Like, that, like, Theodore
Maybe,
Res I think
maybe
we sent, like, a Teddy Roosevelt-esque, like,
we
someone in,
did.
like, a safari, but, like,
We
that
sent
was
somebody in a
it.
safari outfit. That
And
was
it
basically
wasn't a
it. But I was
composition. It wasn't like a yeah.
no, it was I. But I wrote this, and I was like, it's a guy. He's in a tent. He's wearing a military uniform. Use these colors. He's kind of doing this motion. And to their credit, like they did a great job with
This is
this.
Eugenio.
Yeah, Eugenio. The and to be fair, the art brief isn't nothing. Like
Yeah.
it is a clear idea of what we were looking for. Um, and he gave us several options. So once we give them the brief, the next step is generally thumbnail sketches. And so what we get are generally three, sometimes more, occasionally two.
Less, yeah.
Um, but generally, what we get are like three options. And they'll show us just slight variations on, ideally, if I've done my job well as the brief writer, they're not going to be crazy different from one another because I've told them pretty explicitly what we want. Sometimes I give them more or less leeway about like the angle we're looking at. This one was pretty clear. It's like we need to be seeing this person from like a low angle to give the feeling that they're like looking down at us, kind of. Um, so we got these options,
And
and then we weight them.
if you've seen our art, you know which one we decided. But
Yeah,
yeah, so
yeah,
we get these thumbnails, and I wake up and we're still doing emails at this point. I get
yeah.
them. I'm like, here you go, Corey. Awesome day. We got these cool art. We've got all of these thumbnails. These rule. And then me and Corey go back and forth at this point, and we're like, well, we like this for this reason. What about this? Sometimes we'll get a series of thumbnails, and we'll be like, we like this part of this one and this part of this one. Can you combine them? In
Yeah,
this
that happens a
case,
lot.
yeah, it does. It does happen a lot because like the artists are also trying to interpret as they see,
Different
and like at
things.
this stage, it's really easy for these changes to be made. Like at this stage, there's like an expectation of like this is the time to really change the composition if you want the composition changed.
Yeah, well, and so to your point, it's like in this example, we went with three with C, obviously, um, but and we went with it without a lot of changes. But for instance, in some of these, like you can see the different options. Like A, we have kind of a different hairstyle. Oh,
Oh, whoops, I
um,
switched.
no, that's okay. One of them has like a different hairstyle. One of them has like a different angle, and so in a lot of cases, we'll be like, we want the hair from this one, but we want the angle from this one. In this case, C was just good. I felt
It
it
matched
gave
the
the
brief
right.
pretty well. It's kind of what we had in our head. So
Yeah,
like that happens pretty often.
yeah.
Um,
They put an orb on the table. I think that was in the brief. Um, we said like I wanted something that kind of connected it to our world in a way, that made it clear we weren't just looking at like any general anywhere. Um, this piece, I will say, did turn out a little bit more modern looking in a way than we were kind of initially thinking. Gary, to your question, we saw this and we were like, maybe the style is a little bit more modern than we were initially thinking. We were more in like a Renaissance fantasy vibe, and then we had sent them these kind of reference images of like a more safari 18th century kind of or 19th century kind of look, and they gave us this and we're like, that's actually pretty good. So we actually ended up mimicking this style a little bit more, but so they'll send us this and we'll basically sign off or ask for any last changes, because at this point the composition is locked in, but none of the final rendering has been done.
I
um,
think specifically we asked for there to be like a weapon and for his to like make sure at this stage in the process we'll also like get these color sketches that aren't fully rendered. So we'll be like, okay, make sure that you hit it hard
yes,
with like these other details that we'd like definitely want that like
yeah,
aren't important in the color render, but like sometimes like maybe this orb wasn't colored in. And we're like, this
mm-hmm.
has to be an orange orb. So like make sure it's an
Yeah.
orange orb. Here's the orange orb reference.
Yeah,
But
there's a lot of in this stage what we get a lot is like, this looks great. Don't forget,
yeah.
and we'll emphasize the stuff that's like really important to us.
And
So
then it
yeah,
turns
and
into
this
the final there, which is
so
Scar
yeah,
City Journal as it appears
on the card.
on the card. Yeah.
Um yeah, I love this concerned looking guy on the right. That was my favorite part, I think, of the like he's so engrossed in what's going on.
Not part of the
But
brief.
not part of the brief. This is the fun. They just put these fun details in that are always that's always like I really enjoy being surprised a little bit by that.
Here's just another
Um
quick example of just kind of like the process here. We've got Delkin operative here.
Yeah. So this is another one from Eugenio, I think.
Yeah,
Uh, with a similar level of brief, I believe, on this one. We
it was
basically said
almost
like,
identical as far as like detail.
yeah, I this one I love this card. And I'm excited for when we eventually dive more into House Delka. I think this one was even more limited. It was like I want a servant and they're spying. Um, like that was basically they should have a hidden weapon. It's a servant spying. They have a hidden weapon.
This is a really
Is
good
basically what we
example,
said.
though, of like we liked one thing from one sketch and one thing from another. So we really,
Yeah.
really liked the door being open in
Yes.
B there, but we liked the composition and the pose of A. So we
Yes.
asked them to combine the two, and you get these. So these are the colored
Yeah.
sketches, and Eugenio really wanted to know like which of the moods do we like better here. So like we weren't even considering kind of mood of piece at this point. We were just kind of
Yeah.
like saying like here's the composition we want.
Hmm. Yeah, I think these turned out really good. These were some of the earlier pieces we got, and I feel like in these ones we learned a lot about how to look at what we liked, and also just got more confident asking for changes or combining elements and just kind of saying like we like this, we're not as into this. One thing I found is like it's really helpful to tell them what you do like and also why you like it. That's the part that I think was harder to get into initially, was like identifying why I liked specific things I was looking at because I just didn't have the language for it. Um, but like in this case, we said, we like that the door's open because it enhances the feeling that she's spying, and also like seeing something she maybe shouldn't be seeing, but we want her to look a little bit more poised because the card itself is an active card, right? It comes in, it has lunge or watchful, so we need to feel like she can take action, which the other ones didn't take into account as much. So I think this one turned out. This is actually one of my favorite cards in the Wanderers by
I
like a wide
agree.
margin. Uh,
And
her
then
outfit turned out great. I remember we were worried that it didn't look like she was wearing a maid's outfit at first. It looked like she was wearing like a dress.
yeah,
But then as the rendering came in, we were like super into it.
that's another good example of that. So we also have so here's just another example of kind of like the kind of sketches we would get at the time. If you've played Wanderers, you know what card this is. This is Sudden Death. But this is like an example of this is like the first sketch we got. This is Anna.
This
Um,
is an early one.
yeah, I think she did the most pieces of any artist for the Wanderers. She
There's
did
eight,
nine pieces, I
eight, I
think.
think.
8 or 9, a lot of
Somebody fact
pieces.
check us. Count the
I
Annas
can
in
probably
the.
name them. It's Reliquary Tome, all three of the mines, Jungle
Yeah,
Dragon, Diving Dragon Spawn, Sudden Death, Essence Burst. So that's 8.
yeah.
Um, uh, but any case, so she her process is a little different. Like that's another thing about this is like you learn the individual artist process. Some like to send super detailed early sketches. Some like to send colored early sketches. Some like to send really, really basic like shapes, basically just like composition.
Hmm.
Like, am I on the right track? And some like doing multiple stages of that. And it's like also important to like be. One thing we've learned is also it's like really important to be kind of flexible in how you work as well, because like at the end of the day, as long as things get done um in like the time that's allotted, it's like all that really matters is that the end result is good. So like how you get there isn't as important. Obviously, like we want to see thumbnails, like that's super important so that we know we're on the same page. We want to see color sketches before they get to rendering, because like that can change the mood of a piece really, really lot. And I don't think we actually required that originally. I think as we've gotten more, so like Anna here, this is what we got. We got these sketches, and then she basically gave us a full render,
Hmm.
which is great. And luckily, she's amazing, and like everything but like that's a lot of if something doesn't go right in between that non-colored sketch and the full render, like that's a waste of time on our part. That's a waste of time on the artist part, especially, which is like I want to avoid that at all possible. um, Raphael, how many artists are we working with? We're almost to 40. I think we're just
I'm
shy of 40.
I'm counting it now. Our list has 36 people on it, but I think we've only worked with 33 of those.
Uh,
So it's somewhere between 30 and 35.
yeah.
Um, that artists who have done a piece, not all of those pieces are in the Wanderers. Some of them are in the factions that are going to be coming out later. But it's just a little over 30 artists that we've worked with. And so to Colin's point, like there's a lot of different styles, a lot of different cadences. We also set out deadlines usually as part of the contract, and those can vary. Sometimes we'll contract a piece and we're like, we actually need this piece really soon for, whatever reason. That might be marketing, or we want to get it printed for, we wanted it for promotional material that we were going to take to a con or something.
Right.
Sometimes we'll give it a piece and we're like, we actually know that we're not going to need this piece for like 6 months. So if you get it to us in the next 5 months, like we're set. But yeah, so this is the final on Sudden Death, which
But
I
it
think,
was, we chose the thumbnail, and then this is what we got. So like,
yeah, so we didn't see any in between process on this one.
which we
Um,
would not, which we generally would not be okay with right now. Like we would
well, and this was
need.
early on too. We
Yeah,
didn't
yeah,
know as much at the time that we wanted more input in the middle of the process. We also, I remember we gave her 5 pieces,
yep.
and so she was working on all 5 kind of at the same time, and so we kind of just got all of them at the end. Suddenly we got all
Yeah.
5 pieces at once. I remember she just dropped like, here's all of them, which is unusual now for our process. We
Is it,
usually get them in more of a trickle.
is anyone at all interested in kind of like the way our contract, or like our like art process, like working with the artist? So I can kind of give like how we onboard an artist. I think like that's interesting. um Originally it was like I knew we needed some sort of contract that had like an NDA, that had like commercial use rights, things like that. And I went and I looked at, I think Stonemeyer Games has a really good public contract. And I was like, I remember seeing that and I was like, okay, so if Stonemeyer's doing it, it's probably good. So
Yeah,
I started
they make
there.
Wingspan, for anybody who's not
Yeah,
aware.
yeah,
They're a
yeah.
great
I
company.
mean, they're an amazing publisher. So they I was like, they know what they're doing. Okay. So they probably have lawyers who've looked at this.
They
Um,
definitely have lawyers. You're
yeah,
right.
yeah. So I was like, okay, this is probably good enough. So then I like basically I took that. I was like, okay, let's build it out. And then I did a bunch of research on like what all this stuff. That's all, that's not super important to like this, but like I get a contract. I feel pretty good about it. Um, I think we're good. It has basic commercial right usage and NDA, all that stuff. It's what you need, I think, at the time. It has evolved since then. It has a no AI clause now. It has a few other things in there that are like things that we've learned are important to have in there. Not important.
Hmm.
So contact an artist. Artists contact us, which is happening more and more, which is really really fascinating and really cool. Is that once you work with artists, all of the artists are friends with each other and they all know each other. And if you're not a jerk and you actually like are earnest and do stuff, other artists want to work with you, which is fun. So we have it's been so we made that huge list of artists, and I'm happy to say I've never had to reach out to an artist again. um, every other artist that we've worked with has been either reached out to us because they liked what our project was, or was a recommendation from one of our current artists because they had friends who were interested. So it's been really collaborative. It's been really like I love the relationships we've built. It's honestly, I don't know, Corey can speak to this, but my favorite part of this is not it is 100% the relationships I've built with these artists. A lot of them are like just my friends now, which is great. Um, and it is one of the things about working on Luminous that has been the most rewarding for sure, is that I'm helping some of these artists are kind of newer in their careers, and I'm giving them published work to show on their portfolio to maybe accelerate them further in their career, which is like something I'm really excited about and really passionate about. Because we're kind of in the same boat, like we're this like scrappy new game, and like I just like the idea of maybe like rising together. So that's been my favorite part. Anyway, that
Yeah.
was a huge tangent.
Well, and I mean, one of the things, because we're obviously all big Magic fans, one of the fun things about early Magic was seeing the artists do work throughout all those early pieces. And so I have grand dreams of people being like, oh, I've loved watching, honest pieces from Wanderers all the way through like the factions.
Yeah.
or people having favorite artists. But yeah,
But
so
anyway,
this was
I wasn't done with the onboarding stuff. I got super sidetracked. Sorry.
go for
um,
it.
the onboarding. So like artists reach out. They're like, okay, cool. You want to do a piece for us? We agree on everything. Um, I send them basically a huge like dossier of here's our our technical requirements for the pieces. Here's the dimensions you have to draw in. Here are the places to avoid. I send them a template for the card art. I send them a ton of documentation before they even do a piece of art, so that we're on the same page, so that we aren't wasting time during the sketch phase. Um, so that is, I think before even they get a brief, I send them like 10 documents basically to read through and look through. It's like a world guide. They get, if they're doing work on a faction specifically, I give them a faction guide. I tell them a lot about like the world, because I think it's really important to ground them in our story, because we don't want to we've gotten way better at understanding our world and knowing what we need. Like we don't want to see zippers basically. Like there are
We
things.
don't want to see zippers.
Yeah.
That's zippers and guns are the two most common items that we tell people not to do. Um, but
But yeah,
I
that's before brief. That's before,
yeah,
like, at that point, like, we're onboarding them. I tell them all that stuff.
yeah. Um, that's actually a good segue into
Where we are
so
now.
what we've described so far is kind of how we worked through the entire Wanderers set, which has 50 around 50 unique pieces of art.
Done over like
We
2 years.
1 year because
Well, a lot of
Wanderers
the art was
was
2 years, but some of
uh,
it, like the orbs, were 2 years ago.
sure, yeah, that's true. Some of it was
Yeah.
earlier. Gary, zippers and guns, um, like zippers, like zipping up. We tell them not to put any zippers on clothes because I don't know, it just doesn't fit our aesthetic, I guess. We just it when you see zippers, it implies a level of industrialization, I guess. But
Yeah.
and I don't even know if that's true. I don't know when zippers were invented. I don't know anything about the manufacturing of zippers. It could be one of those things where like it's totally fine, but it just gives the wrong impression when you see them. But yeah, so after we did Wanderers, we knew going into factions that we had to get 4 times as much art. And so when I was writing briefs, uh, I was finding that I was having to re-add a lot of information. So what like Colin was saying, we send them information about like the world and the factions and stuff, but I was also including a lot of that in the briefs. Um, and I wanted to templatize it a bit more so that every artist was getting something similar. Um, and also that it was a little easier for me when I was writing them to just go through and be like, here are the things that are important. And so what I did was I made a template for each faction that included a few points about the art brief, and then also had after the art brief, because the art brief is usually including reference images around 3 pages long. And then each brief has like 10 pages added onto it that are just world and faction lore and reference images for the factions. And that's the same on everyone for each of the factions. And artists that now that we've worked with the same artists kind of over and over again, I'm sure a lot of them completely skip that section because they've seen it before. But so our briefs have gone from being, you know,
A
one
paragraph.
sentence, 2 sentences to a full paragraph to something that now is much more elaborate.
Right.
So I think we have one of
I
those.
wish I could share I don't have the capability to like currently share my screen to show you kind of, I can scroll through this, but like, also, hey, hot new card alert. This is nesting mossback, which is going to be, we're going to show you the process start to finish. This is done by Kobe Hughes, which is a local Austin artist. He's been great
Kobe's
to
in
work
Austin.
with.
I didn't know that.
Kobe's in Austin. Yeah.
We should meet up.
Yeah.
Uh,
I'm sure it'll happen eventually, but,
yeah.
uh,
So this is in the new brief. I wanted to give them a better idea of what the actual card that they were working on was. A lot of artists aren't going to play our game; they don't really know. But for those who have seen it and kind of understand how it works, this information doesn't hurt. So here is a look at what the actual card text does. This is all this card text is subject to change.
important.
Obviously, it has keywords on it that don't even like exist anymore. Um, And I also give them flavor text if I have it available. Just again, because the art's going to be on the card, the flavor text is going to be on the card. It's helpful for them to know what's going to be on the card that they're drawing, especially because we give them the frame. Uh, but so the template has a few questions on it. Where is the image taking place? So I'll tell them exactly kind of what the sense of place is. Um, what is the focus of the image? So in this case, I told them like it's a large snake. I don't care exactly how big it is as long as it's scary. Like you should be able to tell that it's big. Um, it should be tucked into a tree trunk or in the floor of a forest. It should have a nest of eggs. In the eggs, I want there to be an orb. I want it to be like guarding an orb, like as if it's one of its eggs. Uh, I give them notes about like the color palette, although largely the note was like whatever you think is best. I just want the orb to be either this color or this color. Um, I give them more details about the appearance of the snake itself so that they I try to anticipate essentially back in the old days when we would send them instructions and we would get back 5 emails asking follow-up questions. I try and just guess what those follow-up questions might be and then answer them. So like, what is the snake doing? Does it seem scared? Is it mean? Um, give them some information on like the background of the image. That was something we got asked a lot early on, was like, is there anything important about the background? Um, is there any specific items or attire? And then like what's the overall mood? And then one that we added specifically because of zippers and guns, I have an item on here that is anything that should be avoided. So I'll specifically just call out, here's all the things I want to make sure you don't do in this piece. So when we were commissioning Xanth pieces, for instance, basically every single one of them said, don't put any guns on their belt. I know they're pirates. They don't have guns. The other section that comes after this is a bunch of reference images. So to your question earlier, Raphael, yes, we do give them reference images. I try to include at least 3 to 7. That's like my general guideline. And that's often other cards that we've done. So one of the things I really like about doing in our art is we can reference other cards that we've done within cards. And so I'll be like, put a character from this card in the art. Or they should be using this item, which is like a relic from another card. And so usually one of the references then will be that card so they can see what I'm talking about. But also, if I describe a pose, I try to put a reference image of the pose. If I can find it drawn out, that's great. A couple of times we've had to take our own pictures. Colin's wife Camry did all of the pose references for the mind cards that are in the Wanderers set. I did the reference poses for Jedos. I think I'm gonna maybe take a reference pose for one of our disciple uniques because I can't find the right pose for it. But so we'll just try to include as much as we can to sort of show them exactly. My goal is basically for the artists to see in their head exactly what I'm telling them. I see it in my head.
Snake trigger warning, FYI.
Yeah,
Just
snake
like
trigger warning if you're
if you don't
upset
like
about.
if you don't like snake pictures, don't. It's trigger warning. 3, 2, 1. But yeah, this is one of the reference photos that
Yeah.
we used for this piece specifically.
So I included these in there. I included pictures from the Kinda cards, some of which aren't released yet, so we're not going to show those.
Both
but
both of them are technically or off the NDA, so we can show both. I can show both.
Prowler as well.
Yeah, we released those cards a while back
Okay.
because we realized that they would be not. I didn't want them
That's
to be
fine.
an NDA hell
Sure.
for.
Show Prowler then, because this was an important one, I think.
Yeah, let me get it real quick.
This was one of the references. So for reference, in the brief, I said I want it to look like an animal that has plant-like growths on it. I want it to look like it's a plant that's slowly being taken over by plant life. Because in the Endless Forest and within the Kinda faction, we have these cards that are animals that live within this forest that magic or time or evolution or whatever you want to say has made them more plant-like over time. And so we have Perennial Prowler here, who is obviously some sort of jungle cat, but with like moss covered skin and these weird wooden growths like that kind of cover it. And so I included this and I was like, I want a snake version of this basically, which was, so this was one of the reference images that we gave along with those snakes to show kind of coiled up. We showed Vinehorn Stag for our Wanderers fans. That's another one of these like kind of endless forest creatures. We basically just tried to give them as much as we could to say exactly what we were looking for. And this was the reference images were one of the biggest changes between how we did art briefs for Wanderers versus how we did them for the factions. We were much more comfortable looking at pictures and saying, this is what we want you to be kind of working around, kind of incorporating into your work. And so all of that got sent over to Kobe, who sent us a number of sketches that look fantastic. Um, this was a high number of sketches. We said like often we got like 2 to 3. This is obviously, you know, three kind of distinct, but with some good variety in them. Uh, it's I guess four versions, right? 1A, yeah, 1A, 1B, 2A, 2B. We go back and forth about which of these we like. I like 1A and 2B, I think the best.
I think it was, sorry, I'm getting stuff fixed up for the next. I think it was, we ended up with 1A and I think it was 1B is actually what
Yeah.
we ended up with.
I mean, I like 1A a lot because it's close up, but we wanted to be able to see essentially like the setting, right? That it's kind of in this hole, this tree trunk that we mentioned. So I believe we went with 1B. But like 2A and 2B are also great. I mean, they're all good. And this is often the problem that we have is like they're all good. Whenever we get thumbnails, we're always like, well, kind of would be fine with any of them.
Yeah, there could easily be another world in which 2A is the art for nesting mossback. But in any case, here's where, so we choose 1B and we're like, okay, cool. Colors next.
Yes. So then we get a bunch of colors. And we basically have to debate which of
honestly,
these
this is
like
probably
best.
where the biggest internal debate comes from, is like which colors we want, because like it's really subjective at this point. It's so some of the concerns that we have to deal with for colors specifically from a manufacturing perspective, and this is something we learned post all of the Wanderer stuff, is in general with manufacturing, because the cards appear in a 2.5 inch, basically 2.5 inch by like 1.5 inch square that's about this big, you need the colors to be generally brighter. You don't want to use, if you're using a very dark color, you want it to be black because of the way the CMYK printing process works. And you want the colors to work well together, and you also want there to be a very distinct silhouette, and you don't want the coloring to kind of like mess with that, because you want to be able to, using art is a visualization. Like art's great for the cards. I think anyone who says that they could play a card game without art on it is probably being slightly disingenuous. You hear that a lot. And I think that you need the art as a shorthand for when you see a card, you know, like that's that card. And a big part of that is the silhouette of a card.
Yeah.
Is you recognize immediately like, wow, that's that card because I recognize the silhouette. It also matters like on understanding what it is. Like there's no mistaking, even from these color sketches that are even zoomed in really low, you know what this picture is. That's a snake coiled.
Yeah. So one of the things, I mean, there's a few things that are going kind of hand in hand when we are trying to create the art. The art is ultimately a mnemonic device, right? It's something that's there to help you remember what the card is. And so that's from a recognition standpoint, like you're saying, the silhouette. Can I recognize what that card is when you play it? Can I see it from where I am across the table, recognize what it is, and remember, oh, okay, that's nesting mossback. I know what that card does. And then secondly, from like the $10 word that we use, the ludo narrative perspective of like, okay, it's a nesting, it's like a snake. What does that mean? This is when you get to stuff that's like, you want your flying creatures to have wings so that people see the art and they go, that's a flying creature. I remember that. Or it's the idea that you want your cards to be things that make sense for what they are in the game. And so usually when I'm making the briefs, I wait until they've made enough of the card that I know kind of like what keywords are we shouting out here. Does it need wings because it flies? Does it do something with your orbs? Like this card, which pivots. Um,
We
like, so we
we
wanted an
we
orb in
didn't
there.
talk yeah, we didn't get to, like, that much tonight, but there's a whole other process of, like, when we know so there's a few pieces of art we know okay, let's finish messing Mox back and we can get to
Yeah.
that. Yeah, so we
So
chose
we
yeah,
go through this. We ended up going with the 3B option because a few reasons. One, I loved these like fall autumn colors,
me too.
but um and like if I were just choosing a piece of art to like have, I probably would have gone with these ones because I think they're really cool.
I think
Uh,
2B was my favorite here.
yes, I agree. But for the reasons Colin was saying, so one, we wanted it to be really clear when you see it from far away what you're looking at. It's a little bit muddier if it's orange and brown. It's not, it doesn't pop as much like a green and a purple does. Uh, and then what I think also I really loved was it's called a moss back, and so I thought it was important that it actually looked like moss for that mnemonic aspect of like that's a green snake, it's covered in moss, it's nesting moss back, um,
So, with
and
all
I think
that
it
in
just
mind,
pops.
yeah, we chose
Yeah,
3B and this is the final.
this is the final, and it looks
It is
so good.
so good. Art, hey man, what's up?
Oh, one of our
One of
artists
our
in the
artists.
chat.
Hold on, I'll shout Art out real quick. Hold on.
Oh yeah, we want to show one of Art's
Yeah,
pieces.
what do we got? We've got what I think is going to be the most played card in all of Luminous. I'll show that out. I'll show that off.
Whoa.
Uh,
Yeah, this card is a sleeper hit. One of our heads of design absolutely loves this card, and he insists it's going to be the most played card in the game. This is Essence Refractor. Looks sick.
it's going
Um,
good. How are you? I know you've been busy.
uh, but yeah, so that's kind of a look at how the art goes from start to finish, from brief all the way through the decisions we're making into the final pieces. Here's another fantastic piece. This is actually one of my favorite pieces in the set.
I think Art,
Uh,
you also did. I could be wrong. I'm not going to go double check because I'm just showing off cool art at this point. But I'm pretty sure you also did Camaro's Gospel, which is our unique, which is also a really good card.
that is, in fact, uh, yeah, one of our better cards, I think. Um,
Also influenced heavily. Actually, this piece also very heavily influenced um the design of the volcanics.
uh, to Gary's question, I think he's talking about essence refractor. He says, "Whoa, is this meant to represent trading in 3 essence of one color for another color?" It actually is trading any one essence into another one. So that's a relic that drains essence from orbs and refills a different colored essence into an orb. Um, Lore wise, here's a little snippet. Uh, that card is one of only 3 cards in the Wanderers that does not have flavor text on it. So you don't get the fun story about what that relic actually is. But we'll talk about them sometime in the future. One of our future sets, we'll talk about them because the people who own those are very rich from being able to trade essence colors. Uh, but yeah,
Yeah,
um,
art hasn't wait, Art has experienced some of our new art briefs, but yeah, he was there for us when we were giving the paragraphs and saying go nuts.
yeah,
I think he's Art has a few pieces coming in for the factions as well. One of which is one of my favorite Kinda pieces coming up. I think it's really really good. Um, so yeah, man, it's been busy.
yeah.
Hopefully you free up a little bit. We can get you another piece. Um, thanks for stopping by.
Uh, but yeah, I mean, I think that's a good look in general at kind of how we run the process, how it's changed a little bit since when we just sent a couple of sentences off to an artist and hoped that they gave us something that we liked. Uh, that was the goal, at least. Um, Now it's a bit more uh, standardized, and I hope, at least for the artists, it's a little bit easier to follow. Um,
Yeah. One piece of advice we got was, um, it is their job. So we want to make it we want to make their process efficient. So if we give them what we want so they can give us what we want. Like,
Yeah.
that was a piece of advice we got early on from an artist, and it kinda resonated, and as someone who's done freelance work in the past, I was like, "Oh, yes, of course, that makes sense." Um, like, if we tell them what we want, they'll give us what we want, and so it's on us up front to do that. I think that more than anything else, that was one of the biggest learning lessons we had from the Wanderers.
Yeah. Definitely. I A lot more work goes into the before we give a piece to an artist stage than when it initially, both from a perspective of like we don't want to waste their time giving them a bunch of revisions because we didn't ask clearly enough from the start what we wanted, and also because we're just getting better at identifying what it is we want from a piece. We commissioned 50 pieces for Wanderers. We've commissioned 100 already for the factions. We've got another 100 to go, so we'll have done 4 times as much after the Wanderers as we did before. So I think we're just getting better as we go. I'm excited to see what our art briefs look like another year from now.
Yeah,
If they'll be even better, that would be great. But
yeah.
yeah, I think
I
that's
wrote 3 art briefs this weekend using the template, and it was nice, and they were okay.
they will hit some artists inbox soon with a few edits.
Yep. All
Yeah.
right, y'all. Thanks for hanging out as always. Look forward
Yeah.
to every Monday. There will be at least 2 of us on here. Probably won't be me and Corey next week.
I think we're
We might
stepping away for
actually
a few weeks for the
yeah.
rest of the team to jump in and talk about some other stuff, but I'm
uh,
sure we will be back soon to talk about more of the words and
There's
pictures side of
yeah,
things.
there's so much more we can talk about just the general like art. There's so much more we can talk about with art. How we work with design specifically and how like that process works and kind of some of the pros and frustrations of that is of interesting like the tug and pull of like how much is how much is enough to give it over to art brief status and then what can happen if that doesn't happen. So we can
Yeah.
get to that if there's
That would be a
interest in
good
that.
next one. Yeah, we can
Yeah.
talk about the design art pipeline.
Yeah. Yeah. I think
Yeah.
that's a whole other aspect we can spend an hour on easily.
Yeah.
Uh,
But
anyway,
all right.
super great talking to y'all as always.
Yeah. Thanks everybody.
Catch you
Hopefully
later.
we'll see you in our Discord.
Yep. Oh yeah. Plug. Yeah. Discord link will be in the description as always. Carry on the description there. Corey and I are always in there. We'll answer any questions you have. Pretty transparent, pretty open, honest. All of our artists are in there. Or most of our artists are in there too. So,
That's
um,
true.
all right. All
All
right.
right.
Bye, y'all.
Have a good night, everybody.
Bye. 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 Goodbye. Bye.